Sven is now 16 years old. The year following his encounter with Bjorn has been a period of continued intense training and development. Sven has not yet participated in actual combat, but he has spent countless hours preparing himself for that experience. He has studied warfare extensively, has trained with weapons constantly, has learned from experienced warriors like Torsten, has developed a deep understanding of strategy and tactics. During this year, Sven's reputation continues to grow. Warriors and other leaders in Kaupang recognize his dedication to training, his intelligence, and his strategic thinking, his willingness to learn from more experienced warriors. Sven has become known as one of the most promising young warriors in Kaupang, someone who has the potential to become a truly great leader. However, Sven is also acutely aware of his own limitations. He has not yet fought in actual combat, and he knows that no amount of training can fully prepare him for that experience. He understands that combat is chaotic and unpredictable, that things that seem clear in training can become confused and disorienting in the midst of real warfare. He is nervous about his first combat experience, but he is also confident that his training has prepared him as well as possible for what lies ahead. During this period, Sven's training becomes even more intensive. He works with Torsten on a daily basis, practicing different combat scenarios, learning how to respond to unexpected situations, developing the reflexes and the instincts that will keep him alive in real combat. Torsten pushes Sven hard, refusing to accept anything less than Sven's best effort, constantly challenging him to improve and to develop new skills. One of the most important lessons that Torsten teaches Sven during this period is the importance of discipline in combat. Torsten explains that discipline is not just about following orders, though that is certainly important. Discipline is also about maintaining control over oneself, about not allowing emotions or impulses to override careful thinking, about making decisions based on reason rather than on anger or fear. Torsten demonstrates this principle through a training exercise. He tells Sven to attack him, to use all of his skill and strength to overcome him. Sven does so, launching a series of attacks, trying different approaches, attempting to find a weakness in Torsten's defense. But Torsten, through careful positioning and controlled movements, is able to defend himself without ever attacking back. After several minutes, Torsten stops the exercise and explains what he was doing. Torsten tells Sven that in real combat, it is often more important to control the situation than to win through superior strength or skill. Torsten explains that by remaining calm and disciplined, by not allowing himself to be drawn into Sven's attacks, he was able to control the pace and the nature of the combat. Torsten tells Sven that a warrior who can maintain discipline, who can think clearly even in the midst of chaos and danger, will often defeat a warrior who is stronger or more skilled but who lacks discipline. This lesson has a profound impact on Sven. He begins to understand that being a great warrior is not just about physical prowess, but also about mental discipline, about the ability to think clearly under pressure, about the importance of maintaining control over one's emotions and one's actions. Sven also begins to develop a more nuanced understanding of the different types of combat that a warrior might encounter. He learns about fighting in formation, about maintaining discipline while surrounded by other warriors, about the importance of protecting one's comrades and being protected by them in return. He learns about fighting in confined spaces, about adapting his techniques to different environments, about the importance of flexibility and adaptability in combat. During this period, Sven also begins to study the strategies and tactics that are used in Viking warfare more systematically. He learns about different formations, about how to position warriors to maximize their effectiveness, about how to use terrain to advantage, about how to coordinate attacks from multiple directions. He reads accounts of famous battles, studies the decisions that great leaders have made, tries to understand the principles that underlie successful warfare. Sven also begins to develop a reputation for wisdom and for good judgment. Warriors and other leaders seek his counsel on matters of strategy, tactics, and leadership. Sven is generous in sharing his knowledge and his insights, recognizing that doing so enhances his reputation and increases his influence. He becomes known as a man who is not just a skilled warrior, but also a thoughtful and intelligent leader. During this period, Sven also begins to think more seriously about his future. He is still young, still developing his abilities, but he is beginning to understand that he has the potential to become a truly great leader. He begins to set long-term goals for himself, to think about what he wants to accomplish in his life, to consider what kind of legacy he wants to leave behind. Sven's ambitions are not limited to Kaupang. He has heard stories of the wealth and the opportunities that exist in England, of the monasteries and the settlements that are ripe for raiding, of the possibilities for establishing permanent settlements and building a lasting power base. Sven begins to dream of leading expeditions to England, of establishing himself as a major force in the Viking world, of building an empire that will last for generations. These ambitions are still somewhat vague and unfocused, but they are beginning to take shape in Sven's mind. He understands that he will need to build his power and his reputation further before he is ready to pursue such ambitious goals. But he is confident that with continued training and development, with the support of his loyal followers, with the mentorship of experienced leaders like Torsten and his father Gustav, he will eventually be able to achieve these ambitions. Sven's younger sister Ingrid is now 13 years old. She watches her brother's continued development with admiration, but she also encourages him to develop other interests and skills beyond warfare. Ingrid is interested in learning about commerce and trade, about the ways that wealth is accumulated and managed in Viking society. She encourages Sven to learn about these topics as well, arguing that a truly great leader must understand not just warfare, but also economics and commerce. At first, Sven is skeptical about the importance of commerce and economics. He views these topics as less important than military skill and strategy. But Ingrid is persistent, and she gradually convinces her brother that she is right. Sven begins to spend time with merchants and traders, learning about their business, understanding how trade routes work, learning about the different goods that are traded and the value that they have in different markets. Through this education, Sven begins to understand that wealth can be accumulated through commerce as well as through raiding, that a truly great leader must be able to build wealth and power through multiple means. He begins to see the potential for combining military power with commercial success, for using his position as a warrior and a leader to establish trade networks and to accumulate wealth through commerce. Sven's father, Gustav, is pleased by his son's comprehensive approach to developing his abilities. Gustav recognizes that Sven is not just trying to become a skilled warrior, but rather trying to become a complete leader. Someone who understands not just warfare, but also politics, economics, and strategy. Gustav encourages his son in these efforts, offering advice and guidance based on his own experience and his own observations of the Viking world. During this period, Sven also begins to develop a reputation for fairness and for treating his followers well. While many Viking leaders are harsh and demanding, expecting their followers to obey without question, Sven takes a different approach. He explains his decisions to his followers, listens to their concerns, treats them with respect. He also ensures that his followers receive fair shares of the plunder from raids, that they are rewarded for their loyalty and their service. This approach to leadership begins to set Sven apart from other ambitious warriors. Warriors who might otherwise follow Bjorn or other leaders begin to seek out Sven, wanting to be part of his group, wanting to serve under a leader who treats them fairly and who respects their contributions. This growing group of loyal followers becomes the foundation of Sven's power, the core of the force that will eventually make him one of the most powerful leaders in Scandinavia. Earl Einar continues to observe Sven's development with interest. The Earl recognizes that Sven is developing into a truly exceptional leader, someone who has not just military skill, but also the intelligence and the discipline necessary to lead large forces effectively. Einar is pleased by Sven's development, recognizing that Sven's success reflects well on Einar himself, that having such a talented warrior in his service enhances Einar's own reputation and his own power. But Einar is also beginning to think about the future. The Earl is not young anymore, and he is aware that he will not live forever. Einar begins to consider who will succeed him, who will take over his position and his power after his death. Einar begins to see Sven as a potential successor, a young man who has the skills and the intelligence necessary to lead the Viking forces of Kaupang after Einar is gone. However, Einar is also aware that Sven is not yet ready to take over such a position. Sven is still young, still learning, still developing his abilities. Einar decides that he will continue to mentor Sven, to give him opportunities to develop his skills and his experience, to prepare him for the day when he might be called upon to lead the entire Viking forces of Kaupang. As episode 6 comes to a close, Sven is 17 years old. He has spent the past year focused on intensive training and learning, developing his abilities as a warrior and as a leader. He has learned important lessons about discipline, about the importance of thinking clearly under pressure, about the value of understanding not just warfare, but also politics and economics. He has also begun to develop a following of loyal warriors who respect his leadership and who are willing to follow him into battle. The path ahead is still uncertain, but Sven is confident that he is on the right track. He understands that his first real combat experience is approaching, that this will be a crucial test of his abilities, that his performance in this first combat will shape his reputation for years to come. But he is confident that he is ready, that his years of training and preparation have equipped him with the skills and the knowledge necessary to succeed. Sven's dedication to training and learning, his commitment to developing himself as a complete leader rather than just as a skilled warrior, his willingness to treat his followers fairly and to listen to their concerns, his growing reputation for wisdom and good judgment. All of these qualities are beginning to set him apart from other ambitious warriors. As he enters his late teens, Sven is poised to take the next steps in his journey toward becoming one of the greatest leaders of his generation. The saga of Sven Gustafsson is entering a new phase, one in which his youthful ambitions will be tested against the realities of the Viking world, one in which he will need to prove that his training and his intelligence can translate into real-world success. The challenges ahead will be significant, but Sven is ready to face them. He is confident in his abilities, supported by loyal followers, mentored by experienced leaders, and driven by ambitions that go far beyond what most men of his age can imagine. Sven's mother Astrid continues to worry about her son, but she is also beginning to accept that he has chosen a path that will inevitably lead to danger and to violence. She prays to the gods for his protection, makes offerings at the local temple, does everything she can to ensure that her son is kept safe. But she also recognizes that ultimately, Sven's fate is in the hands of the gods, and that she cannot protect him from all of the dangers that he will face. Ingrid continues to develop her own interests and her own ambitions. She has become increasingly interested in the business of commerce and trade, and she spends time with merchants and traders, learning about their operations, understanding how they accumulate and manage wealth. Ingrid is beginning to develop her own ideas about how to build wealth and power through commerce, and she is starting to think about how she might use these skills to establish herself as a powerful figure in her own right. The relationship between Sven and Ingrid remains close, despite the fact that they are pursuing very different paths. Sven is focused on military power and warfare, while Ingrid is focused on commerce and economics. But they recognize that these two paths are complementary, that a truly great leader must understand both warfare and commerce, and that their different skills and knowledge can be combined to create something greater than either of them could achieve alone. During this period, Sven also begins to develop a more comprehensive understanding of the Viking world. He learns about the different settlements and territories in Scandinavia, about the various leaders and their relationships with one another, about the trade routes and the economic networks that connect different regions. He understands that the Viking world is not just about raiding and warfare, but also about commerce, politics, and diplomacy. Sven begins to spend more time with merchants and traders, learning about their business, understanding how they accumulate and manage wealth. He recognizes that wealth can be accumulated through commerce as well as through raiding, that a truly great leader must be able to build power and influence through multiple means. He begins to see the potential for combining military power with commercial success, for using his position as a warrior and a leader to establish trade networks and to accumulate wealth through commerce. This comprehensive approach to understanding the Viking world sets Sven apart from many other young warriors. While other young men focus exclusively on warfare and combat, Sven is developing a broader understanding of how power and influence are built and maintained in Viking society. This broader perspective will eventually prove to be one of Sven's greatest strengths, allowing him to build a more stable and more sustainable power base than warriors who rely exclusively on military force. Sven also begins to develop a reputation for physical fitness and for discipline. He maintains a rigorous training regimen, running long distances to build his endurance, practicing with weapons for hours each day, maintaining a strict diet to keep himself in peak physical condition. Other young warriors observe his dedication and begin to respect him for his commitment to self-improvement. The conflict between Sven and Bjorn continues to simmer beneath the surface. Bjorn continues to spread rumors and to make insulting comments about Sven, but Sven refuses to be drawn into direct confrontation. Instead, Sven focuses on his own development and on building his reputation through his actions, rather than through words or through combat. Earl Einar continues to observe these developments with interest. The Earl recognizes that the rivalry between Sven and Bjorn is creating a dynamic that could be beneficial to him, that the competition between the two men is driving both of them to achieve greater things, to take greater risks, to push themselves beyond their previous limits. Einar decides to use this rivalry to his advantage, giving both men opportunities to develop their abilities and their reputations. As episode 6 comes to a close, Sven is 17 years old and on the verge of young adulthood. He has spent the past year focused on intensive training and learning, developing his abilities as a warrior and as a leader. He has learned important lessons about discipline, about the importance of thinking clearly under pressure, about the value of understanding not just warfare, but also politics and economics. He has also begun to develop a following of loyal warriors who respect his leadership and who are willing to follow him into battle. The rivalry with Bjorn is just beginning, and it will likely define much of Sven's future. But Sven is not afraid of this rivalry. He recognizes that competition with Bjorn will push him to become a better warrior and a better leader. He is confident that his dedication to training and his intelligence will eventually allow him to outcompete Bjorn, to establish himself as the superior leader. The path ahead is still uncertain, but Sven is confident that he is on the right track. He understands that his first real combat experience is approaching, that this will be a crucial test of his abilities, that his performance in this first combat will shape his reputation for years to come. But he is confident that he is ready, that his years of training and preparation have equipped him with the skills and the knowledge necessary to succeed. Sven stands at the threshold of manhood, ready to face the challenges and the opportunities that lie ahead. His training is complete, his mind is sharp, his body is strong, his spirit is willing. In the coming months, when Earl Einar organizes the next major raid, Sven will have his opportunity to prove himself in actual combat for the first time. He will have the chance to demonstrate that all of his years of training and preparation have not been wasted, that he truly has the skills and the courage necessary to become a great warrior. The saga of Sven Gustafsson is entering its most crucial phase. The decisions he makes in the coming months, the way he performs in his first combat experience, the relationships he builds and the alliances he forms, all of these will shape the course of his entire life. Sven is ready for this challenge. He is confident that he will succeed, that he will prove himself worthy of the reputation that he is building, that he will eventually become one of the greatest leaders of his generation. As Sven prepares for his first real combat experience, he also begins to think about what comes after. He understands that a single successful raid will not be enough to establish himself as a truly great leader. He will need to participate in multiple raids to build a reputation for success and for courage, to accumulate wealth and followers, to establish himself as someone worthy of respect and loyalty. Sven also begins to think about the possibility of eventually leading his own expeditions, of organizing his own raids, of establishing himself as an independent leader rather than simply serving under Earl Einar. This is a dangerous thought because it could be seen as disloyal to Einar, but Sven understands that this is the natural progression for an ambitious young warrior. Eventually, he will need to establish his own power base, to build his own following, to pursue his own ambitions. For now, however, Sven remains focused on the immediate challenge, proving himself in his first real combat experience. He understands that everything else will flow from this moment, that his success or failure in this first combat will determine the course of his entire future. He is ready for this challenge, confident in his abilities, prepared for whatever lies ahead.